Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Monopoly. This is Kerwin, and today I'm here with an awesome guest, Yuri Gomez. Yuri is a real estate investor with 8 years of experience, and he's the founder of Golands Capital. He's the owner and operator of two multifamily buildings, which he rents short and long term. And he's also a house hacker and a private lender to some fix and flip projects. Yuri's invested in around a little over 594 units as an investment partner and is part of the management group in three projects out of a total of 576 units under management. Thanks for being here today, Yuri. If you could, please kind of just provide some like context as to what your life was like before you came across real estate.
Awesome. Hello, Kerwin. Happy to be here. So my background was I worked for a telco company called Wireless, and I was able to leave my W-2 last year. But before that, I moved to Florida in 1998 from Colombia, South America. And I had several jobs. I pretty much did everything in the US. I worked as a server, valet parking. I had all sorts of different jobs before as I was going to college. I studied finance in Miami, Florida, and I've been in Florida pretty much all the 24 years that I've been here. My first career job, or my only career job, was with Verizon Wireless, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I always had that thing bugging me in the back of my head where I shouldn't be an employee, I should be an entrepreneur, I should invest. So the way I started was just started saving. I just started saving a lot of money. Started saving pretty much at least 30% of what I made, sometimes more, a lot more, and that helped me, as I was deciding what I was gonna do, because when you're at a job, you don't know anything about investing. So my first intuition was, let me just save money. Of course, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad helped me go through that, and then I knew I was doing the right thing. I just didn't know what I was gonna do with it. And then I met a friend in Verizon who always was talking about real estate, how he was investing on the side, he was doing great things. And to make a long story short, he became my first mentor. He taught me how to run and operate a vacation rental business. He's now very successful, and I was able to leverage his experience, to get introduced to real estate.
No, that's awesome. And we can relate. We also started, I'm not necessarily doing what you're doing, but we started in like the smaller real estate before we moved into apartments. And so you touched on this, but I want you to quickly expand on it. So saving money, that's something that we were taught as well growing up. Has that changed now that you're an investor in real estate? Like, do you still save money, or is it more with like an intention to invest?
Absolutely. I am always saving. It becomes something that's a part of you forever. So the way I see it with real estate investing, I like using the cash flow to, for my lifestyle. And then I use the appreciation to reinvest in real estate. So that's kind of how I see it. And then at a smaller scale, I still save from my cash flow. I have two kids, so I'm always mindful of, college, school, and other expenses that come with having kids. So yes, I will always save. I'm not a car guy. I'm not really into luxury stuff, so that helps. Also, that I don't have expensive needs.
Yeah.
My wife has a little bit more expensive needs than I do, but I would say she's almost like me as well. So that really helps to lead our lifestyle. And we also want to teach our kids about money, about how hard it is to get money and to make it multiply. So I think saving is always going to be a part of our lives.
No, I love that. That's awesome. And I'm sure you're doing a good job of teaching your kids those money principles. And so I would love to know, I think we as investors, everyone has the kind of their aha moment when it comes to real estate, when they realized what real estate can offer, and maybe like you could never go back to life before real estate. So was there a moment for you or a time in your life where real estate was presented to you and you could just never really look back?
So with me, it was a little different because I come from an entrepreneurial background where my dad was always investing in real estate. So it's always been a part of my life. However, we did went into a dire situation when we moved to the US. My dad was opening up businesses and failing. The culture here is different. The things that in your home country, a lot of them do not apply here. So he actually ended up going into bankruptcy. So those were really hard times. So even though I always was in a family where investing in real estate was common, when I moved here, that was not an option for us anymore. But I always had it in the back of my head. So when I started working in Verizon and I got reintroduced to real estate as an adult, it was pretty cool. I wasn't really thinking about it. Wasn't an aha moment. It was just something that I always knew in the back of my head I needed to do. But I guess the aha moment came when I started getting those that cash flow, that income from the properties with my first short-term rental. We started renting it. It was really doing that well. It was during the pandemic, and then in December of 2020, our reservations started skyrocketing, and that was the aha moment. I was like, I can actually live off of real estate. And all of a sudden, for about 4 months later, I quit my W-2 job. And all of a sudden now, I not only had income to pay off my expenses, but I have more time to spend with my family. So I guess that was my aha moment.
No, that's awesome. And so sounds like short-term rentals was the first avenue in real estate that you took. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if that was the case, can you kind of break down how you came across short-term rentals, what your first deal in that space was, and just kind of like what the benefits you saw of it? Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So it wasn't my first deal, first significant deal in real estate. I'll say it like that. So we did have they had a couple of units. If we've been investing for about 8 years. But significant income, that was the first one, the vacation rental. So how as I mentioned before, I got introduced to it through a friend from work that was investing in real estate. And all we were doing, it was just, the Bigger Pockets calls it driving for dollars. It's kind of like the term in the community. My mentor, before we even knew it was called driving for dollars, he used to call it real estate patrol. He would say, let's go do real estate patrol. So we were both working in Verizon. He was already investing in real estate. And I would just go with him and we were just driving, neighborhoods. Sometimes not the best neighborhoods. We would have everything. We just really wanted to get very good at knowing different markets. And just looking that a real estate patrol transitioning outside of Miami. I was living in Miami and I quickly realized I wasn't going to be able to afford a multifamily in Miami with the income that I had and the prices on that market. So I started looking outside of Miami and I started looking, okay, what are some places that I could invest? My mentor, my friend from Verizon, he was already doing short-term rentals. And I always thought that was really cool. He always taught me, do not buy a property to do short-term rentals. There's always regulations. That's just the icing on the cake. Always do your numbers, thinking of long-term rents. But getting where, there's tourism, it's an area where they just want to go there, could work. So I always analyze properties long-term, not short-term. I started looking, but short-term rentals was head. So I always said to myself, just in case, let me just find properties that are close to the water. That's where people want to go in Florida, right? They want to be close to the water. So I started looking at the coast, Cocoa Beach, which is kind of close to Orlando, Florida. Daytona Beach, same thing. I looked at Augustine, Florida, too expensive for my budget. I started at Pete. And I was able to find a property in St. Pete, Florida, where the numbers worked. Of course, I had guidance from my friend/mentor, and I was able to close on that. So what I did, because we didn't have a lot of money for our first investment, my dad, and I told if we all sell our property, my wife apartment, my dad
Hey,
had a
Yuri,
property.
sorry, can you, it cut out there. Can you repeat what you said? So like I got everything from when you said you were looking in St. Augustine, but it was too expensive.
Yeah,
You,
so in August was very expensive. So I was looking at old markets, Sarasota, St. Pete, Daytona Beach. I was looking at different areas where the numbers would work, and I finally was able to find a deal in St. Pete or close to St. Pete Beach. So what I did, before we even found this deal, I told my family, my wife and my dad, I convinced them. I told them, you got to invest with me. Trust me. I know we can do this. So, we didn't have a lot of money. So we all decided to sell. Each one had a property. So we sold 3 properties in order to be able to buy or to fund our first multifamily. So we bought it close to St. Pete Beach, Florida. And we were able to start our vacation rental business, of course, with guidance of my mentor friend.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Was that short-term rental? So did you have a single family rent short-term rental first, and then you kind of moved up into larger, more multi-unit properties, or was that your first short-term rental a multifamily property?
It was our first short-term rental and multifamily property.
Okay,
So,
awesome.
fear was there. I
Yeah.
had a lot of fear going in, but I did the math. I did the
Mhm.
math, and that was something that helped me. So when you have fear, just take a step back and do the math.
Yeah. Well,
That's always something that I tell friends that want to get into real estate.
and that was your first investment, like yourself as well?
I had a single family home that I was renting long-term rental, and my
Mhm.
wife had an apartment where she also had a tenant. So it was not our
Nice.
first, but it was our first. It was significant for us because it was
Mhm.
just so much bigger than everything we had done before.
Absolutely. What were some of those fears and like maybe limiting beliefs you had when you first got into that deal?
So I was scared of rehabbing a property. I still am, to be honest. I'm not a handy guy. I've
Me
done
neither.
plenty of flips. I've done plenty of rehabs now, but that's never been my strength. My strength is to be backstage, doing the numbers, talking to people, and kind of structuring the project. So, but
Yeah.
I had fears. I had fears of the rehab. I had fears of the budgeting of money, of okay, we're gonna spend X amount of money on renovations. What if it's more? What if it's a lot more? And when are we gonna start receiving cash flow? Because when you do a property for vacation rental, you not only have to renovate it, because you want to be the nicest one in the area. That's part of the business plan that we applied. We always said to
Mhm.
ourselves, we will be the nicest Airbnb in the area that we are located. We actually got there. All modesty aside, I mean, the bar wasn't too high, to be honest. It's not like there was like really nice properties of Airbnb in the area, so that was good for us. But that was our business model, to be the nicest property. So we had all these fears of the renovations. Then we have to furnish it. You can not only have a budget for renovations, trying to be the nicest one in like the finishes, but you also have to furnish the property, like mirrors, paintings, just furniture in general. And it could get pretty expensive. And then after that, you spend money on renovations, labor, you spend money on furnishing. Now, we have to market it or rent it or put it on Airbnb, VRBO. There's different places where you can put it. But in how long will income that's gonna be able to pay for the expenses, and in how long are we gonna get our money back? What is our return on investment gonna be like? Because you can always predict and forecast using assumptions, you can underwrite, but of course you have that fear that, okay, when is it actually gonna happen? So it was pretty scary. It was a little bit of fear, but I've always been I love this Theodore Roosevelt's quote. Um, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The
Yes.
second best thing you can do is the wrong thing. The worst thing you can do is nothing. So I've always been a proponent of just taking action, and it ended up working, not with tons of obstacles and challenges along the way. It wasn't easy. It was just there's many things that happened throughout that
Mhm.
process, but I was able to quit my job and focus more on real estate, and then scale like I am now.
That's awesome. And something that we've always been taught in real estate, especially when it comes to raising capital or just finding ways to get the money to buy these properties, is to reach out to your friends and family. And that's what you did. And that's really awesome. That's like a powerful testament to the importance of just getting out of your comfort zone. It can be very scary to ask the people in your close network. Was that scary for you when you reached out, or did you kind of have confidence that they would say yes?
Both. I had confidence that they would say yes, but it was also scary. Just
Mhm.
when you start working with other people's money, even if it's your wife and your dad, it starts getting scary because it's not your money. You're not the only one taking risk, but they are depending on you to execute your vision. So there's always some fear involved in doing that. And then as I scaled and started bringing investors to our bigger deals, same thing. It could be scary at first to work with other people's money. The way to mitigate that is to be as responsible as you can, as conservative as you can with the properties or the projects that you get involved with, to make sure that that your investors are going to be happy.
No, I agree. I think it's important not only to have the confidence, but when you have the education, it also helps you to kind of proceed with confidence as well with the deal and make sure that you're being like a steward of other people's money, because you should be more careful with other people's money, as I'm sure you are. And so, I, for anyone that maybe doesn't have like the money in their family, I would recommend maybe just going to networking events, because even if it's not like we didn't have money with our family, but we met people that had money. So there's not really an excuse. I don't want anyone to be like, oh, I don't have that in my immediate network. You can still create more people, add more people to your network, and go out and put yourself out there and find those people that do have access to capital. Do you have anything to add to that, to maybe someone who would have that limiting belief that since they don't have money in their immediate network, they can't find the funds to buy real estate?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that could stop you. It's of course not having the money, not having confidence, and not having track record. Those three things are really things that are you're always thinking about. But like you say, Kerwin, those are limiting beliefs. If you don't have education, then go find education. If you don't have money, I was in that position a long time ago when I wanted to start in real estate. I didn't have money, or I didn't have enough money to do what I wanted to do. So I started saving more. So get a high paying job. If you cannot get a high paying job, if you didn't go to a university, which you don't need to. I used to
Mhm.
think that that was something you had to do. You don't need to. Then how about you don't go into a high paying job, but just go right into investing? How do you do it? You can become a wholesaler. I know that you guys, you and your brother started, wholesaling. So that's something you can do. That is a high paying job. You just gotta have education, so you can learn the rules of the game, the skills needed to be successful at it, and then you can make a lot of money. And then that way you can do your first deal. Just do one deal. One deal is gonna give you so much confidence to then go to conferences. I mean, you shouldn't need to do that, but if you feel like in your mind you have to, then do that first deal. Do one
Mhm.
deal, whether it's wholesaling, fix and flip, anything. Uh, Make some money, and then just go talk about it with your friends and family. How wow, I did such a great job at this, or I didn't do a great job, but this is what I learned. That's also part of the journey. And then you go to conferences. Always, document your story and tell your story, because that's what people want to hear. They want to hear your story. And as you gain more experience, they're going to appreciate, they're going to trust you more, and that's going to get you to a point where you have enough people that know, like, and trust you, and that's going to help you raise capital, if that's what you want to do. You want to raise capital to do even larger projects.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And so you mentioned that, I think you touched on some challenges that you encountered during that small multifamily deal. I would just honestly, I'd love to know if you could briefly expand on some of those challenges and how you overcame them during the whole period, and if you're still holding on to them, if you've just recently overcame them.
Yeah, so I'm going to be brief because it was a lot of things that happened. But so, well, the first one is we had tenants. So we bought the property fully occupied. Why did I buy the property fully occupied if I want to do Airbnb? Because there was properties that weren't occupied where the numbers work. You have to work with what you have to. Uh, when you are for a great deal, sometimes that great deal is not going to be perfect, and there's a lot of things you have to do so that deal becomes the great deal that you had in your mind or in your vision. So okay, so we bought it fully occupied. um, Three tenants were very cooperative. Then we had a fourth tenant. It was a 4-unit, so it's a fourplex. We had a fourth tenant that wasn't paying the rent and also didn't want to leave. So that was the first challenge. It took us about, of course, we didn't know how easy it was to evict someone in Florida, and we wanted to go, not go that route. We wanted to kind of work it out with them. We ended up doing something called
Cash for
cash for
keys.
keys. Yep. So we got into an agreement where we would pay them cash if they would leave within 24 hours. The tenant happily accepted. What the tenant didn't know or remember is that cash that we gave them was actually their deposit. So pretty much we gave them back their deposit and they left. So it ended up working out. That was the first challenge, but it was a challenge because we went through a period of weeks where we wouldn't hear from the tenant. We were living in Miami, and it was just very challenging. My brother, which lives in Orlando, ended up having to drive on a weekly basis to the property. I was also driving every other week to see if we would run into the tenant. Finally, one of us did. It was actually my brother, and he was able to, negotiate and let her know, kind of make an agreement so that, we did cash for keys and they would leave. So that was the first thing. Then we started going into renovations. We had never done we had done cosmetic stuff at our 2 rentals with my wife, very cosmetic stuff, nothing major. And now we were going to undergo a major renovation. It was an old building from the 60s. It was a block construction, great bones. Everything inside was really bad. It hadn't been renovated for years, smelly, things were not working out, a little bit of mold, everything that you could think of. So we knew from the start that we were going to do a major renovation. So we said, if we're going to do a major renovation, we might as well change the mechanicals. Mechanicals is pretty much when you change the ACs or the ducts and the AC units, the electrical and plumbing. Those are the mechanicals. So since we're going to do a major renovation, we're going to tear down walls, we might as well just do that. So that added even more scope of work to the renovations, something we've never done before. So we had to learn how to create a budget, started getting quotes from different contractors, and then started working. So when we decided with a contractor, we submit a plan to the city. This is what we're going to do. And then, okay, the city said, okay, you are approved. You can start work. So we started doing the demolition. When everything was demolished, the city came back and said, oh, we looked at the plan, and you're not allowed to renovate over 50% of the value of the home. So they said it is not approved. So now we're in trouble. It's already demolished, and the value of the home was the last appraisal that happened like 15, 20 years ago. And so the home wasn't worth much back then. We couldn't do an appraisal now because it was all demolished. We had no floors, no walls. So it was pretty nerve-wracking. We went into a period of 90 days where we didn't do any work, and we didn't know if we were going to be able to do any work. And it was just very stressful. It was a very stressful situation. So after coordinating with the city, we made a plan where there was a lot of things that were not sanitary or safe. For example, we did cameras on the plumbing and it wasn't safe to keep it. So that was I think it was like a change order, it's called, where we are required to change that so it doesn't become part of the budget for renovations. Same thing with electrical, same thing with the AC. And we're able to remove a lot of things from the budget that we still were able to do. And then we were not able to do all the units at once. We had to renovate one unit. We also had to work through that. It took us, we could have done this in about 4 to 5 months for the 4 units. It took us about a year a little bit over a year. I would say a year and a quarter. So, and it was always with that fear that at some point we're going to get stopped again with the inspectors, because as you go through all the processes, there's inspectors that are going to come in. It was just very scary. Then the last challenge, because I don't want to go, I could talk about this for hours, but the last challenge that we had was we opened in June of 2020, right in the middle of COVID, when we had all the quarantine. Everyone was supposed to stay home. So it was also nerve-wracking. We're not getting any income or very little income. And it went like that all the way until December, which is when it started, when it started doing really well. So those are like the main challenges that we had.
That's crazy. And it sounds like there was a lot of value add potential for sure in that opportunity. And you definitely overcame a lot of adversity throughout that experience as well. And I think that's what good real estate investors have to learn to do. And I know, I can spoiler alert, like you eventually make your way into the bigger multifamily real estate assets. But is that, I guess my question is, what lessons did you take away from that experience? And is that one of the reasons you eventually transitioned into bigger assets, or is that just for diversification?
So yes and yes. So the lessons were, adversity is coming. It's always coming. So you need to, like Julius Thomas said at one of the conferences that I attended a few weeks ago, you need to be prepared for it. You need to work for it, and you need to embrace it because it is coming. None of this is easy. Real estate investing is not easy. Investing anything, nothing in life that's going to be good and significant, nothing that's going to change your life will come easy. Uh, there's no such thing as luck, and if there is, it's not the way people think it is. Oh, that person got lucky, they went into Zillow, and that day the property was heavily discounted and they were able to get a great deal. No, this is work they've been doing for months and months, maybe even years, to get to that point where they're able to find that great deal. So adversity will come, and you need to know that it's coming. And I now learned that for everything that I do. When I did a few flips last year as well. Fix up flip, I knew I was gonna get adversity. I already went through a whole lot of trouble with this fourplex, and it ended up working out great. So I knew I was gonna get adversity. And then when I moved into the multifamily syndication space, I knew I was gonna get adversity. It hasn't been easy. A lots of lessons learned, but for the most part, it's been great. Everything ends up working out if you just stick to it, stay consistent, and do the hard work.
Yeah, and so is that why you moved into larger multifamily? Like, can you maybe explain what your motivation to move into larger assets was?
Absolutely. That was the second yes. Yes. So it is a lot of work. So
Mhm.
it doesn't matter if you do a 4-unit building or a 20-unit building or a 100-unit building. The work is about the same. You're probably gonna take the same amount of time doing. Probably the 20-unit building is gonna be the most work out of the three. So I realized that I needed to scale just because it made sense. That's where I was going to get the most return on effort.
Mm.
Now when you become active investors, you're not only looking at return on investment, like whatever I invest on my projects, how much money am I going to make back? You're also looking on return on effort. Is it really worth me going through all this trouble to get the revenue, the income that I'm going to get? I would say at first, maybe it is because you want to learn, you want to get experience. You don't have to, but that experience is really going to help you. But I got to a point where I said, okay, I used to be a proponent of, in bigger podcasts, they talk about the stack. So you do a single family unit, you do a duplex, and you do a fourplex, which I did all those things. And then you get to a point, okay, if you do 4 units, now you have to do 8. So I was looking for 8-unit buildings, 8, 10, 12. And then I told my wife, I think this is too much work. I don't think we're going to like it. I think we're going to we're going to quickly be fired from real estate. We're going to fire ourselves from real estate, just to kind of understand better what our criteria should be, because you should always have a very clear and detailed criteria. And then as we were going on conferences, it turns out we were right. We should do over 100 units. So the industry's consensus is when you do less than 20, when you do 20 units or less, most likely it will not cash flow for you to pay a property manager. So you have to manage it yourself, which means you're not going to be able to scale.
Mhm.
So we definitely didn't want to do that. So that's where we decided, okay, it is time to go into 100-unit properties. And that's what we did.
No, that's awesome. I love that. And fast forward, you're partnered on over 500 plus units, and that's really exciting. I wanted to ask because I know that you also help Colombian investors invest in American real estate. What just for context, because we raise capital from Americans, but that's something we're interested in doing. But just like for context for somebody that isn't really sure what the benefit is to invest as a foreign investor into an American real estate, what advantages do they get? Or I guess like what value are you bringing them when you give them these opportunities? Like why can't they just invest in Colombia, or why don't they rather than investing in America?
So there's many factors involved. I'm going to start with the main one, which is the dollar. When you have investments where when you're hedging the dollar, against the other currencies, it's just a beautiful thing. If you look at what the dollar has appreciated this year, against all other world currencies, you're gonna see that the dollar's been very strong. And historically, maybe it's not gonna be as strong as it has been this year, because this year has been especially stronger. But if you look at historically, the dollar has always been a very strong currency. And then when you start comparing it with third world countries like my own, like Colombia, it gets even worse. The dollar compared to third world is just you have two types of returns when you're a foreign investor. You have the returns on the capital and the appreciation of the property, and then you also have the return on the currency exchange, the currency appreciation, because you're in dollars now. Just to give an example, the dollar has appreciated as of today, which is November 18th. The dollar has appreciated 25% against the Colombian peso. So my investors are very happy. So let's say I told them they're going to make 9% return cash flow every year plus appreciation, and let's say maybe they only made 8%. They're going to be very happy because they're also making 25% because they live in Colombia, they spend in pesos, and they're earning in dollars. So it's just incredible. And that's the main reason why I recommend and why my investors invest in the US. The second reason is also, the US being a world power, a leader, an economic leader in the world. Also, the returns are usually better. You could probably get higher returns in Colombia as far as projections, with a ton more risk involved. So when you fast forward at the end of the project, you usually end up making more money in the investments you do in the US than the ones you do in Colombia. Because Colombia, you can find great returns, but also you can find there's a lot of risk involved to get those returns. And risk doesn't always translate to high returns. It is projected that way because you expect high returns to take on the risk, but risk means you may or may not get to the projections.
No, that's awesome. And I think it's so important to highlight because a lot of people here take it for granted, the opportunities within real estate they have here. And there's people all around the world that's like not the case. People might overlook how valuable real estate is here and think, oh, that's the case everywhere. And it's really not. Like other places aren't really suitable. And maybe you can invest, but the return on investment isn't as favorable to the investor. So thank you for sharing that. Yuri, it is time for our speed round. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Awesome. Let's get into it. All right. We're going to hit this straight fire. So, number one, what is the biggest failure that you've encountered throughout your real estate journey, and what did you take away from that experience?
So I bought this property last year. It was a flip. I was going to fix it, flip it, sell it in, a couple months. And I started getting very impatient. And, with impatience, I ended up buying a property that had great numbers, but it had a lot of things for you to get to those great numbers. One of the things was it had an open permit, and also I had to do an addition to be able to finish that flip because they had started an addition. To make a long story short, it was going to be about a 8 to 12 month renovation. I ended up selling that flip, not making any money, probably even lost $1,000 on it or broke even. So what I took from it is not only look at the numbers. Numbers are great, but why are those numbers so good on a deal? What's everything you have to do to get to those numbers, and what are the timelines involved? And if I would have known all of this before, or kind of looked at it at everything, I wouldn't have done it.
No, that's one of the seminars, is what Rod Khalifa would call it. So that's good learning experience. Question number two: what is your goal for your business long term, and what are you aiming to accomplish moving forward?
Let me talk about medium term first. Medium term goal is I brought about 15 investors this year, almost $1.5 million in investments from my investors. From usually most of them are foreign. My goal is to get to 10 million a year. Medium term, and then medium term to long term, continuing to add more freedom to my life, so that I have more time to give to my family, which I am already accomplishing that, but I would like to continue improving on the time that I am giving my family. And ultimately, I want to help 1,000 investors reach financial freedom by investing, by doing passive investments.
Well, that's awesome. I think time is the most valuable asset we have. And it sounds like you've been able to really free up your time a little bit and also helping investors do the same thing, which is amazing. It's awesome. What is the number one book that you would recommend anyone read when it comes to business, life, or just anything?
Okay, let me say two real quick. One that I read about over 10 years ago, called How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the best books that changed my life. One of the biggest skills you can have is interpersonal skills. Knowing, how to get the most out of others, while also adding value to them and keep them motivated. I think that's been a great book. I strongly recommend it. And I want to talk about a recent book that I'm reading. It's called Rocket Fuel. You should probably know it. It's been incredible. It's for entrepreneurs that are wanting to start or scale your business. It talks about that you need two types of people: an integrator and a visionary. So it helps you understand and discover which one you are and how to find the other one so that you can 10x your vision
No, that's
or your
awesome.
business.
Just bonus question. Are you a visionary or an integrator?
Visionary, 1000%.
Oh, same. I love that book. And we read that book and we also read Traction. I think it's by the same
Traction.
author. Really good books.
Great,
If
great
you
book
shared
as
a
well.
ton of wisdom today and we really appreciate it. But if there's which one piece of advice that you would want someone in our audience to walk away with from this episode, what would that be?
To take action. Whatever you have to do. Taking action doesn't mean just actually buying a property. Taking action means going to conferences, driving the neighborhoods, getting to know your market, analyzing deals. Just become really good at something, but do something. Take action and everything will just unfold. Trust me.
I cannot agree more. Thank you so much for your time, Yuri. If anyone in our audience wants to go to find out more about you or just follow you on your journey, where can they go to do that?
So they can look me up on Instagram. My handle is at Yuri Alex Investor. That's where and then you can go to my link in bio. You can find the website to my company, which is Golands Capital. The website is golandscapital.com. But you can find everything on the link in bio. You can also schedule a call with me. I usually post some webinars that I do there as well. So yeah, go to my Instagram. I'm actually Yuri Alex Investor on all social media main platforms. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I would say main one, Instagram. So you can go to my link in bio and kind of see everything else.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for your time, Yuri. And thank you guys for tuning in today to the Real Estate Monopoly. If you guys got value, please make sure to leave a review and a 5-star review down below. Let us know what you think. And guys, let's get out there and take action. Have a great rest of your day.